It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I am your host, Brian Beatty. And over the next hour, we're going to talk about all things real estate here in the Charleston area. Got a lot planned for you this weekend. So if this is your first time tuning in, let me just give you an idea of what this show's all about. I like to take national, regional, local news, market data, and then apply that to us here in the Low Country so that if you're considering buying or selling a home, or if you just want to know what's going on with the real estate market, then you have the information available to you to make an informed real estate decision. That's what I'm all about, just providing you with good, accurate information and then sharing some stories with you about what I experience as an agent that's been in the top 1% of agents in our market since 2009. So if you would like to reach out to me at any point during the week, during this program, feel free to do so. My phone number, which you can call or text, is 843-345-1273. Or if you'd like, you can visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS. You can take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold. You can read some testimonials from past clients. And if you're considering selling your house, which is what I'm going to talk about in pretty good detail today, click on the Sell Your Home tab. And on that tab, you can read more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. So very simply, I will sell your home in less than 2 months, or I will sell it for half my commission. So again, the website for that, listingsincharleston.com. Let me tell you what I have planned for this show for this weekend. There's a new website that has come out that's gaining a lot of traction and a lot of press. And the name of the website is Neighborhood Scout. And this is what I want to talk about first. We'll get into that in just a minute. A little later on in the program, I want to give you some tips for selling your home in a seller's market. We are in the majority of the Tri-County area in a seller's market right now. So I want to give you some tips on how to price your home effectively and just give you some ideas, maybe other than price, on how to draw some buyers in. A little bit later on, I want to give you some information on just the market in general, talk with you about some of the island markets that we have here in the Charleston Tri-County area. And then I also want to talk about expired and withdrawn listings. We have a lot of listings that hit the market every year that end up not selling. And I want to talk with you about that. I want to give you an idea of why that is. And I want to talk about some trends in that specific segment of our market. So all that's coming up a little bit later on in our program. Let's focus now on Neighborhood Scout, which is what I alluded to just a few minutes ago. So we already know that there are websites out there like Zillow and Realtor.com, Homes.com, so on and so forth, that allow you to be incredibly specific with the way in which you search for real estate. Now, if we were to go on Zillow or Trulia or something like that, we could, of course, put in the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage we wanted, search by price range, but then we can get more advanced. We can talk about searching for schools. We can look at walk scores. We can look at community safety. We can look at some general crime statistics, and then a variety of a few other things. That's already out there. What this website does is it allows you to do this. Let's say that you wanted to live in a neighborhood in Mount Pleasant that's 10 miles from downtown Charleston with high-quality schools, a low crime rate, a low proportion of children in poverty, a high proportion of white residents with college degrees who own homes between $300,000 and $600,000 that make over $150,000 a year as a household. This website allows you to do that. So did you catch what I said? White residents, or any racial makeup for that matter. One of the big deals about this website And don't get me wrong, the majority of this website is fascinating. It is incredible. It is awesome. But when you allow people to search by racial makeup in a neighborhood, and then you take the other facet of this website, which again is great, they allow you to search hyper-local crime data. In other words, you can look at specific neighborhoods and you can find out what the level of crime is in that neighborhood. What we have access to now really is just, here's the crime for West Ashley, or here's the crime for North Charleston. They don't dive down and give you neighborhood-specific data. This site does that. The issue is that, of course, race is a protected class for fair housing laws. And too often, real estate agents kind of get painted into this corner where they work with buyers and the buyers say, Brian, we want to be in a neighborhood where we don't have a lot of fill-in-the-blank people around us. Where would be the best neighborhoods to search in order to avoid that? Obviously, me being a real estate agent that is governed by fair housing laws in terms of what I can and can't provide in terms of information, I can't answer that question. And I'm very upfront in telling them that there are certain things that I just can't provide you with information on. So I see the need for this site. I think that it's great. But again, people are, I think, going to have to get over the initial shock value of being able to search for a neighborhood by race. That's different, folks. It's not out there right now. And that's why this website is gaining some attention right now. Do I like it? Hey, it kind of takes the heat off of me as a real estate agent. Plus, I don't have information on each individual neighborhood and who lives there and what race they are or what familial status they are and so on and so forth. If this website puts that information together and provides it to you and it's accurate and reliable, then so be it. But what I think is also going to happen is that they're going to start singling out neighborhoods that just nobody should invest in. I mean, why would somebody invest in a crime-ridden area with low-income residents, so on and so forth? It just seems to be a problem. So what I think a function of this site is going to do is it's going to help the great neighborhoods be even greater, and it's going to hurt the neighborhoods that are already in trouble from a crime standpoint or just from a low-income standpoint, so on and so forth. So again, it provides people with accurate information. I like that. I like that you can look at crime individually by neighborhood. And there's hundreds of things that you can select from on this website. But it kind of reminds me of, and one of those things is appreciation by neighborhood. And it kind of reminds me of Zillow, which I think if you've been following my program, we all know how I feel about Zillow. I believe in the overall service it provides, but I do not believe in Zillow providing you with an estimate of what your home is worth. And I certainly don't think that Zillow should be telling you what your house is worth a year from now, which is my most recent beef with them, is that they're going to take information that's inaccurate and unreliable to begin with, and then using some sort of algorithm or variety of algorithms, they're going to tell you what your house is worth a year from now. Those are things that I think should be left to real estate agents or people that really understand what they're doing, rather than just using some sort of system tell you what's going to happen. Again, I've beat that horse to death. I've talked a lot about Zillow on this program, and don't get me wrong, it's a great service. It's a lot better than the MLS that we as real estate agents use. So again, that website is Neighborhood Scout. They're going to charge you $40 a month to use it. I think if you pay for a full year, it might go down to $20 a month, so $240 for the year. But interesting stuff. I don't know whether or not our community is ready for being able to search by neighborhood, by racial makeup. I think they're probably going to get some flack for that. But if the information is available and it's reliable and all they're doing is compiling it, then I don't see any problem with it, quite frankly. Plus, again, it takes the heat off of me as a real estate agent that can't provide you with that information to begin with. So anyways, Neighborhood Scout, name of that website. Coming up next, I want to talk with you about how to price your home in a seller's market, which is what we are in right now. I want to talk with you about some ways to discriminate against bad agents. In other words, I have a list of 10 things to improve our industry and to make sure that you don't get involved with an agent that doesn't know what they're doing. And the way you do that is by asking the right questions and by asking the tough questions. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Reach out to me. Listingsincharleston.com is my website. Or give me a call, 843-345-1273. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning. If you're just tuning in, last segment we were talking about a new tool out there called Neighborhood Scout. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to search for neighborhoods in any given area in the country, and it gives you about 300 different sets of search criteria for you to select, for you to identify your dream neighborhood. So there's a lot of helpful information on there, like crime information, school information. You can look at the income level or education level of the neighbors surrounding you. And then there's some things that are a little bit of gray area, like you can search for a home based on racial makeup, which is a protected class through fair housing. And, you know, it's kind of getting some positive and negative press for that one specific set of criteria. Now, again, if it's public information and all this website is doing is compiling it, then I don't see a problem with it. But again, it's getting some interesting attention right now. So something to watch out for, kind of similar to that Zillow estimate that's going to tell you what your house is worth a year from now. I'll be curious to know as time goes by how accurate that information is and whether or not it can truly be used as a reliable source of information to identify potential neighborhoods for you. So that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, if you're considering buying or selling a home here in the Lowcountry area, feel free to give me a call. I am a real estate agent during the week. I've been in the top 1% of agents in our market since 2009. Feel free to give me a call or text me at 843-345-1273 or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. What I want to talk about now is there was a list that was published by Brad Inman of Inman News, which is a real estate-based online publication. And he put together this list, and I'm going to kind of go by point by point on this list here and kind of pick it apart in some instances. But this is his opinion on how we need to discriminate against bad agents, which is the title of this article, and really what we need to do to make sure that our industry, our real estate industry, gets back on track. You know, I think we have a negative connotation with the general public, just in terms of what we do and who we are as people and professionals. Overall, real estate agents don't have a great public perception. They just, you know, most people think that we will do whatever we need to do to get a commission and then move on. And there are plenty of agents out there that think that way. And that's part of what brings our industry down to a very low level. You know, you think about a doctor as being very prestigious. We are certainly on the other end of that spectrum as real estate agents. And as an industry, we have a lot of work that we need to do to show that we are a valuable asset in helping people buy or sell a home, which is usually their most expensive asset. Do you know that the average savings account for retirees is $100,000, and the average sales price of a home in the country right now is $172,000? So I'd say our job is pretty darn important, and we need to get on track with correcting this industry and the standards within it so that we can provide better value and so that people can trust that for the most part, there are agents out there that have your best interest in mind. They don't care so much about the commission. What they care about is providing you with quality information and help at key decision times so that ultimately you can buy or sell a house to your financial benefit. That's the point of being a real estate agent. Let me go through this list after getting off my soapbox here. Number one, raise standards for obtaining a real estate license. He says the bar is ridiculously low, equivalent to proposed standards for obtaining a dog walking license. The requirements for becoming a stockbroker would be more suitable, I think. Consider the stakes. The average savings account for a retiree is $100,000 and the average home price is $172,000. Number two, he says the industry should get behind a major initiative to publicly rate and rank all agents. Well, first of all, I totally agree with number one in that I think we need to raise the standards for obtaining a real estate license. It is easy. And those that don't pass their exam the first or second or third time, you kind of get a little concerned about that because it's not a very hard test. But what's kind of a joke is the continuing education afterwards, after you get your license. That's where I think we need to focus more of our time and effort and energy. Number two, though, industry should get behind a major initiative to publicly rate and rank all agents. How are we going to do that? Is it going to be based on amount of properties sold? Going to be volume of sales, number of transactions, reviews by clients? How are we going to populate that data? I'll tell you, one of the things that I really have a problem with is, but of course I have to do it because that's what people are interested in. They want to know how many homes I've sold. But you think about this, if I'm on track to close close to $40 million in real estate this year, and I've got a team of agents that work with me, it's not hard when people sit down and they look at the percentage commission to figure out how much money I make. That's an issue, in my opinion. Where else can you go and find out how much money you make, Mr. Buyer or Seller? How much money do you make? Oh, I'm sorry. I see that you're making $250,000 off the sale of this house, but you want to cut into my commission for helping you achieve that goal in a reasonable time and with a lot of customer service and with attention to detail and with all the things that you expect out of a professional. I'm not saying that out of anger. I'm saying that as a way of thinking about publicly ranking all of these real estate agents. And the other thing that I would add is that it has to be a system that is sustainable, because you have one person that shoots way up and just decides to enter in all their sales at one time for the past 6 years. It's going to change the way these websites, I think, rank people. So anyways, moving on. Number three, someone should create a glass door for agents, an anonymous posting service that compiles information on businesses similar to an internet Better Business Bureau with much more punch. With that, I totally disagree. And here's why. When I am hired to do my job as a real estate agent, I am there to be friendly to the other side of the transaction, but I am not there to be their friend. I'm here to represent my client and get them the best deal possible. And guess what? When I represent clients in buying or selling a house, we're in it to win it, folks. We're in it to get the best deal possible. That's why you hire me. And sometimes when we, quote unquote, win the negotiation, when we get the better half of the deal, the other side of the transaction has a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. You know, we got the better part of the deal. So if we have this anonymous posting service, I'm not, frankly, a fan of having a buyer that ended up having to pay more for a house than they really wanted to based on my negotiating skill and the negotiating skill of my client. If we're able to get them up a few $1,000 and they didn't really want to do it, but we played hardball and we got it done, sure, that buyer might be a little upset. They could have probably got it for a little bit less. But I certainly don't want them to then go on a website and say, oh, this guy was just a jerk. He was tough to deal with. He didn't listen. He had poor customer service skills. I didn't even represent him. That's just an example of what I'm talking about here. Number four, National Association of Realtors should stop enabling the growth in agent numbers. The giant trade group is rewarded financially for growing its member ranks. Well, I don't really know what to say about that other than this. Yes, you pay a membership fee to the National Association of Realtors, but the National Association of Realtors is a heck of a lot more than just a big bucket to dump money into. There's a lot of punch behind what the National Association of Realtors can accomplish for the benefit of home ownership. As an example, we lobbied to delay certain parts of the Bigger Waters Act, and ultimately, I think we were a large factor in getting Bigger Waters Act removed out of the market. So there's a lot more to it than that. Number 5, franchises should stop their agent count bluster. When firms brag about how many agents they have, they should be called out for hurting consumers. That's a pretty extreme view. Now, I have never been one of the agents that says, hey, I need to go and work at the biggest company because they're the best. Far from it, quite honestly. But to stop or to limit individual brokerages for hiring people that want to be in real estate, I don't agree with that. It goes back to the first point of they just need to be well educated so that they can protect the consumer and so that they can offer value without putting themselves or their clients in a situation where they're incurring unnecessary costs or opening themselves up to liability related issues. Nobody wants to get sued. I never have. I hope I never do. Anyways, moving past that, I'm going to go to the last one here. Training should focus more on ethics, the law, best practices, and customer service, and less on dubious sales strategies and feel-good, pom-pom girl, pump you up boisterism. With that, I totally agree. So I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about some tips for pricing your home in a seller's market. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to give you some ideas on how to prepare your home for the spring market. How do we prepare your home to sell? So coming up, that's what we've got going on. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, feel free to reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. We'll take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 8 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
1250 WTMA.
Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the real estate market here in Charleston and to provide you with some accurate information. That's really the goal of this show, is just to help you navigate this market with the use of accurate, reliable information and some of my experiences as somebody that's been in the top 1% of agents on our market since 2009. So I really appreciate you tuning in and really appreciate the opportunity to be on the air to share all of this information with you. If you'd like to reach out to me, the best way to do that is to just go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS. You can take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold. You can take a look at some testimonials from past clients. And if you're considering selling your house, which is what we're going to talk about right now, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you'll find out information on my 59-day home sale guarantee for 4.5% commission. So again, the website for that, listingsincharleston.com, or feel free to call or text me at 843-345-1273. So when I was talking last segment, we were talking about ways to raise the bar in our industry, ways to make sure that the public feels better about the value and the overall motivation behind real estate agents to help their clients succeed in a real estate transaction. Again, I think we've got this public perception of being the do whatever it takes, say whatever I need to say, lie, cheat, do whatever I need to do to get a commission. It's not really about the client. It's about me, the agent. I just need to get paid so I can move on and do it again. There are certainly agents out there. Don't get me wrong. But I think that our industry is a lot more than that. And I think we get a bad rap for agents that don't take the time to be the professional, that don't take the time to educate themselves and keep up that level of professionalism that our industry is starving for. But anyways, I was on my soapbox for about 10 minutes on that topic. I want to move past that. I want to help you because we're in a great time in our market right now. School's getting out. This is the hottest time in our market for sellers. If you're thinking about selling your house, the best window of opportunity you have is in the next 60 days. The next 60 days, folks, is when you're going to sell your house for top dollar, because that's when the most buyers are out there. It's just when activity is at its highest. So what I want to do is first help give you some tips for pricing your home in this market. And I want to help you guys understand how pricing works in a market that's a seller's market, in a market with appreciating values. So first of all, understand this. When we look at pricing in a market that is improving, what we have to understand is that values yesterday were less than they are today. So if we're looking at comparable sales that closed, let's say, February, March of this year, those were contracts that were written in January. Those contracts that were written in January were based off of sales from June to December of last year. So already we're almost a full year behind in terms of actual real-time data. And that's why it's important that you work with a real estate agent that understands the trend in our market. If not, you might be leaving some money on the table. And I am not the type of agent that is going to stick to my guns per se and only have listings that are priced a little bit below fair market value so I can sell it quickly and move on and do it again. My goal is to accomplish your goal. And if we sit down and we learn that you don't have to move in the next 30 days and we have a little bit of time to push the envelope with regard to pricing, then we're going to take full advantage of what the market is telling us and the trends within it so that I can get you top dollar for your house. It's happening all the time. There always has to be a newest, highest sales price home in a neighborhood. Let me say that again because I messed it up. There has always got to be a new, highest priced sale in your neighborhood when a market is appreciating. Why not be that house if you're the best one? That's what I'm facing right now on a few different listings. I had a property that was a for sale by owner, and the price that we decided to set, in my opinion, is in line with fair market value. And they were going to sell for sale by owner, and they just needed some help with pricing. And I was happy to provide that service. And I really look forward to when we get a contract, because I think it's going to be in a very short amount of time based on the level of activity we have. And that's the point of what I'm trying to make here, is that there's a difference between good agents and great agents. The great agents are the ones that stay in tune with the market so that they can help you price your house and get top dollar for it within reason. So having said all that, here are the tips that I have for you to assist in pricing your home in a seller's market. Number one, if you sit down with an agent and the data that they are giving you suggests a price, but they tell you to list at a price much higher than that, chances are it might be too good to be true. So my suggestion for you, if there's information being provided to you that doesn't add up, talk to another real estate agent. If you want to bypass that, need for a commission through a real estate agent's eyes, which might skew the value that they give you, then talk to an appraiser. An appraiser is going to give you a very point-blank, independent, non-skewed value for your house, assuming that appraiser knows what the heck they're doing, of course, and there's plenty out there that don't know what they're doing. But that's number one. Number two, think like a buyer for a moment, if you will. When you put your house on the market, what we need to look at is the fact that a buyer is going to be searching for real estate in a certain price point, and we need to take a look at everything else that's out there right now to determine how we add up. If there's a home down the street listed for $500,000 with 500 square feet more and more upgraded bathrooms, and you want to list at $525,000, and you don't have those upgrades, and you have a smaller house, chances are you're overpriced. So just think about it from the standpoint of, if I'm going to go buy a house, how does my house compare to others? I've had plenty of instances where I sat down with a seller, I had a price in mind. They had a price in mind. And in those instances where we're pretty far off, I have taken those sellers to their competing homes for sale. We've actually gone and acted as if they were a buyer, looked at those homes and said, do you see how your home compares to this? What do you think your home has this home doesn't have? And vice versa. And then after that process, they realize, wow, yeah, I guess we really need to adjust some things or do some things to our house to be able to compete with that. Most agents aren't doing that. They're just going in, they're bringing a printed piece of paper or two that says, yep, here's what's sold, here's the price per square foot, and here's the average price per square foot. So we need to be right around that average price per square foot. It's a totally inaccurate and lazy way of approaching a valuation on a property. And I'm not going to get too much into that. But again, that's what I think we really need to do in a seller's market is put ourselves in the shoes of a buyer. Number 3, I kind of alluded to this, but the truth behind comparable sales is that it's old data. If we look at comps from last June to December, and we know that December's pricing is up 11% so far this year versus the same time in 2013, then we need to take that into account. Again, I'll move past that because that's pretty self-explanatory. Number 4, a fair price. And this is always a topic of conversation with sellers is where do we price it? Because buyers want a deal and I want to get the most money possible for my house. So where do we price our house? Well, here's what I'm telling sellers right now, and I stand by this. As long as we are close, as long as we price your house close to what it's worth, then we're going to get showings. We are going to get online traffic. We are going to get people that inquire about it. We are going to have activity on your home. Having said that, if we set a price and in the first 30 days we don't have an offer, then we need to be able to adjust that price because it didn't work. And as I mentioned before, this is the best time to sell your house. If you're thinking about selling your house, please go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, send me a message, and I'd be happy to speak with you about it. But right now is the time to sell. So if I'm answering this question, if you're listening to what I'm saying, as long as we are close, we are going to get traffic. What we need to decide is how far off of fair market value can we go and still get that traffic. It's a case-by-case basis. I can't really answer that from a percentage standpoint here on the air. But what I can say is that if we, again, put ourselves in the shoes of a buyer, we need to take that into account. It maybe affords us a bit of room to push the envelope in terms of pricing. But again, as long as we're close and as long as you hire an agent that has a fantastic marketing plan, that's very aggressive, that goes out there and shotgun blasts your home to the entire world for everybody to see, then we're going to get some traffic. So anyways, I hope that some of that helps you in terms of determining how to price your home. If you have specific questions, if you're thinking about selling your house, it's very easy to just contact me on my website, listingsincharleston.com, or give me a call, 843-345-1273. If you just want a general idea of what your house is worth, I don't necessarily have to come to your house and meet you. We can just have a quick conversation about it, and I can pull up homes in your area and give you a reasonable idea of what I think it might be worth. But again, if you're thinking about selling, let's act now because this is when our market is hot. So this is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back for our final segment. Stick around. I'll be right back.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. This is our final segment of the hour, unfortunately. If you're just tuning in, we've talked about a lot of interesting stuff this morning. We talked first about a new site called Neighborhood Scout, which allows you to take a few hundred different search criteria and identify your dream neighborhood. And we talked about some things that I think are highly beneficial, like being able to search crime statistics by neighborhood and income level by neighborhood, public schools, all kinds of good stuff. But some of the gray area, which I think you'll start to hear more about as this website gains some traction and some publicity, is that it allows you to search a neighborhood by racial makeup. So interesting stuff there. If you want to catch this show, if you're just tuning in, it will be on my website Monday of next week. Feel free to go to that site, listingsincharleston.com, and you can search the MLS, take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold. And if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you'll learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. So again, the website for that, listingsincharleston.com. After we talked about that new search tool, we talked about ways of discriminating against bad agents. And what I mean by that is raising the standards within our industry so that public perception of realtors improves. And a lot of what that article discussed, which I read, has some very valid points, most of which revolve around education for agents, which I think our industry is lacking in. But he had a few suggestions that I don't agree with, like creating a anonymous posting service that allows anybody to post anything about anyone in the real estate industry. That I do not agree with. He also talked about ranking agents, but he didn't offer any suggestions on how to do that. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do, because just because you sell the most homes in the area doesn't mean that you're the best agent. So I think we would need to define what the best agent is and then create a ranking system based off of that. What I want to talk with you about now, because what we just talked about was how to price a home in a seller's market, and I gave you some tips for that. What I want to talk about now is what happens if you don't price your home effectively, or if you choose an ineffective agent in marketing and selling your home. And again, I've got a lot of information on my website that revolves around this. In fact, I have a long list of properties I've sold that other agents did not. That site is listingsincharleston.com, or you can just give me a call, 843-345-1273. So far this year, we have had 4,000 houses come off the market. And what I mean by off the market is the listing agreement either expired or the seller withdrew it from the market after some set period of time. 4,000 houses have not sold so far this year, which means that those sellers either need to decide not to sell their home and keep it off the market or put it back on. But what I said last segment is that we've got basically 60 to 90 days, which represents the hottest time in our market. We're in it right now. And if you're thinking about selling, now is the time to get it back on the market or put it on the market for the first time so that we can get in the game and we could take advantage of the awesome timing that we have in our market, with school being out, with people vacationing to Charleston, with just the overall level of activity being at its highest. Going back to expired and withdrawn listings, this is what happens when you put a game plan on the table and the agent and the sellers agree to it and it doesn't work. And what I want to say on that regard is that it's a lot of new agents, and it's a lot of agents that have chosen to get back into the industry when things got tough a few years ago. And what they're doing is they're quote unquote taking listings. They're taking listings so they can have signs in the yard, so they can have stuff to talk with buyers about, so that they can have buyers call the yard sign or respond to their marketing, so that they can start to generate some business for themselves, rather than taking an honest approach toward, hey, this is what I really think your house should sell for, and I want to be truthful and upfront with you about it because I want to help you accomplish your goal. I'm not necessarily here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you the truth about what I think the market can bear for your house. And that, in my opinion, is the difference between a good real estate agent and a great real estate agent. So what we have are these agents that are just taking new listings. They've got to generate business for themselves, but they don't have the tools. They don't have the market knowledge. And frankly, in most cases, they don't have the guts to stand up to the homeowner and tell them the truth. The bottom line is they just need that listing. They need to get started, and that's how they do it. And it happens all the time. I wouldn't be talking about this if this wasn't commonplace in our industry, and I'm not trying to make something out of nothing. It's a problem. And I think that for a lot of the sellers that have had their home on the market, where they sat down and that agent gave them a very compelling marketing plan and outlined a strategy to help them sell their home, and it didn't sell, typically what I find is that the agent set the stage and they didn't deliver. They didn't do what they said they were going to do, and they didn't have the customer service to make that client feel as though they were actually doing something. That kind of boils down to one of the biggest problems we have in our industry right now, which is communication. I have a communication guarantee in my listing agreement, and it very simply states that you will hear from me once per week from the time we list until the time we sell. And if you don't, you can fire me. That's how serious I am about communication in our industry, because again, our public is starving for it, and most agents fail in that regard. So expired and withdrawn listings are something I'm seeing more of. I'm seeing newer agents taking more listings because that's what they're being trained to do. I just want to, and I'm not putting down new agents. There are plenty of new agents out there that believe in themselves. They do the training, they get the education, and they offer value to their sellers. Having said that, there are plenty of agents that aren't doing that, and they just are doing what they need to do to get signs in the yard. Point blank. It is how it is. Our industry is always going to have agents like that, and I don't think there's much we can do as an industry to get around that. So having said all that, I want it just for the last few minutes of this program, because I'm almost out of time, I want to give you just an overall idea of where our market has been and where we are now. And I've got the hot and not markets in the Charleston area. What's hot, what's not. So again, just for the past few minutes here, I want to just tell you what's going on in the market because I love this stuff. If you look at our market 3 years ago, I'm taking June 2011 to May 2012. Our months of inventory was at almost 10 months worth of inventory. So 3 years ago, we were a buyer market. A normal market is 6 to 8 months worth of inventory, by the way. But then 12 months later, our market shifted. We went down to 6.5 months worth of inventory. And now, over the past 12 months as a Tri-County area, we are at 5.5 months worth of inventory. So over the past 3 years, we've gone from a buyer market to a normal market to a seller's market now. And that's why I wanted to share information with you on how to price your home in a seller's market. It's a different strategy. It requires a different type of agent. It's not all doom and gloom now. It's great to be able to sit down with a seller and say, hey, guess what? You've got equity. Let's get the most for your house, rather than, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but based on what's selling in your neighborhood, your home is worth less than what you owe on your mortgage. Have you considered a short sale? Do you know what that is? I love being able to have positive conversations with people rather than that doom and gloom, have you considered a short sale talk. That's never fun for anybody. But that's what's happened in our market just from an inventory standpoint. And what's causing that is 3 years ago, we had about 9,000 closings in our market. And then as time has shifted, the 12 months after that, we had about 11,000 closings. This year, I think we're going to sell about 14,000 houses. That's a lot of closed business. I think that will represent the third or fourth highest closing year we have had to date as available in our MLS system. But I think that, top 3 closing years in history in our Tri-County area. That's exciting stuff. No wonder Charleston is a top 10 place to move to, retire, vacation, so on and so forth. Our market is hot as a result of that. But then if you look at the inventory, which is really what we have a problem with right now, 3 years ago, we had about 7,300 homes for sale. And then 2 years ago, we had about 6,000 or so. In the past 12 months, we've had an average of 5,800 homes for sale. So inventory is down almost 40%. Closings are up almost 40%. And that's a two-way swing. So you can see how that momentum is really pushing us into the seller's market. It's really cool, exciting stuff. So I've got just a minute or two left. Let me give you this information, and I will preface this by saying I have an entire list of all areas in the Tri-County organized by months of inventory, which represents the markets that are hot and the markets that are not. The top 3 hottest markets in our area is Mount Pleasant, south of the Isle of Palms connector, West Ashley, outside of 526, and Mount Pleasant, north of the Isle of Palms connector. Those are the top 3 hottest markets in our Tri-County area. The 3 markets that are not hot right now, Isle of Palms, 20 months worth of inventory. That's almost 2 years worth of inventory. Folly Beach, they're at 18 months worth of inventory, so about a year and a half worth of supply. And then if we look at Kiowa and Seabrook, they're almost 2.5 years worth of inventory right now. Again, if you want to see that full list, feel free to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or give me a call if you're thinking about selling your house. Learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. I really appreciate you tuning in. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.